Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Well, today we're going to talk about hashtags and Twitterverse stuff and stuff like that. So, not really much major going on outside the internets these days. Thanks, COVID. But interesting things happen on the internet all the time. Right? There's so many things happening during these times. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with it all. New hashtags, new things. People are really bored. You know, things come and go on the internet sprees, and sometimes it happens so fast that a lot of people don't really know what's going on. So that's sort of what I try to do here on this channel, is I try to cover some of the strange events in the furry fandom that a lot of people are like, what's going on? What is this? Socialist Teeth. My first sauna doesn't have much teeth. I'm a prey animal. I don't have much in the line of teeth. Neither does my fursuit. So I do have incisors on some of my things. I guess that's close enough. But so we're talking about teeth today, and most importantly, this hashtag that trended was #1 trending in the U.S. at one point, called Socialist Teeth. So some of you might have seen that. Some of you major Twitter users might have saw that trending on the US, and you're like, what the heck is all this about? So that's what this video will go over, as well as some of the interesting consequences of having a trending tag that is so tied with such a sort of in-depth social commentary or social issue or social item that bots start to take over and sort of reveal their hand. So we're going to go over all that today. There is a written form of the article and the link in the description below, so that if you want to read it really quick, it should basically be up there by the time this video goes up. There'll be a link in the description for that, so that people who are not audio listeners either can also enjoy those content. I'm trying to get better about doing that, to present my content in both written and spoken form, so that people can, I got fuzz in my face, so that people can, be able to consume the content one way or the other. So, let's go over what Socialist Teeth is. Now, a lot of people, if you were to look up the hashtag Socialist Teeth right now, you would see a lot of fursunas, a lot of animal characters, smiling and grinning at the camera in sort of like bearing their canine sort of way. So the canine teeth would be very presentable, and it would have that sort of grin or sort of aesthetic to it that sort of looks like an intimidating smile that has a lot of fanged canines sort of protruding from their muzzle, right? So the concept of Socialist Teeth came from a person who is very critical of this aesthetic, or tied this aesthetic to political viewpoints in a critical manner. So the etymology of it actually comes from a thread under which individuals were talking about their recent activism, activism within the furry fandom that occurred. Where is it? Here we go. I had scrolled my thing down one. I was worried I was misclicking. So basically, the person who was saying that was like, somebody was like saying, oh well, someone was making a tweet about being, criticizing individuals within the furry fandom who were being critical of police officers. Basically, the concept of defunding the police and things like that. Very much, many furries are, contributing in their own ways to the Black Lives Matters movement. And of course, people on the other side of the political aisle believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is connected to socialism in some way, even though that's more of some artificial social political binary that is injected upon when you have a duopoly of political parties, you sometimes have issues that are not necessarily tied to one another being pushed into social political binaries, because it's easier for the people in power to control people if they can put them in Camp A or Camp B. So many times people in social political camps will tie things together which don't necessarily tie together. Like, the concept of, trying to make it so that, black Americans don't feel fear around police officers because they fear that they will be extrajudicially killed for minor crimes, right, is not anything having to do with anarchy or not having anything to do with communism or not anything having to do with socialism, but because we live in this duopoly and the right wing is trying to coerce or co-opt law enforcement and defense as a major part of their platform, they have to paint anyone that is doing that as communist, right? Because they're supposed to represent the capitalists too, even though those things don't have anything to do with it either. It's very, very messy, and it's becoming unraveled more and more as time goes on because people are seeing it for the farce that it is. But some people fall within that farce, and some people will go, well, if someone's a Black Lives Matter person, they must be a socialist too, right? So some people are very comfortable within those binaries and will present their arguments as thus. So, because they're comfortable in those binaries, we had somebody go, well, there's furries who are in this whole, someone was being critical of furries, a furry was being critical of furries within that were supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. One furry responded to that going, well, it's no surprise, they have socialist teeth in their icon. And the original poster is like, socialist teeth? What? What's that mean? And so this is how they responded. Oversized bared teeth, normally looking down at the viewer. These are the ones I grabbed in just about 5 minutes, and some may only be bearing teeth because of the anti-police ribbon. But there are many others. And some may only be bared teeth because of the anti-police ribbon, but there are many, many, many more examples if you look. So the interesting one at the top left there, the one at the very top, the blue and black cat. I don't know that person's political viewpoints, but like that one looks like the most like I don't think that they made that for any political reasons or anything like that. And many people don't make these things for political reasons. I will say that yes, there is certainly an aesthetic that I have noticed, and yes, it is interesting that someone came up with a name for it, but you kind of missed the ball on it because you basically had the opportunity to go call it a Marxist maw or something like that, doing some sort of alliteration or something. So it's a Marxist muzzle. It's a Marxist maw. Marxist maw have socialist teeth. It's kind of silly in that way. But, like, there is certainly a sharper aesthetic that I've noticed for people who are activists or people who are putting icons on their things for activist reasons. Like, they're usually not toony characters. They're usually more, animalistic, I should say. I guess more raw, more feral in a way. It is definitely an aesthetic that I have noticed, and I certainly do notice it's like if I see that aesthetic, usually that person is going to be very open with their human politics, their politicalness, and their politicalness is usually very, very pointed. And for people who have been on the bad side of things, that's sometimes a survival mechanism. You have, in this country, we have the rights and we have the ability to be very open about our political beliefs, even if they make people uncomfortable, right? And more often than not, individuals with those kind of aesthetical icons tend to state what they feel, even if it makes people uncomfortable. So I guess it's that the icon sort of represents in a way that it's like, hey, I'm going to say things that are going to make you uncomfortable. My icon's feral snarl might make you uncomfortable, so it's sort of a way to sort of, get people that they might not care for to back off, right? And so some furs want hugs. Some furs are like, I'm happy with who I am, right? And there's definitely different people who come into the fandom for different reasons. So as far as like the concept of calling it social teeth, like socialist teeth, I don't know. Like, so the concept is that socialism, I think, scares that individual who made that sort of statement. The concept of socialism scares them, and the icons probably scare them as well, which is probably why they tied the two together. The reality is that the etymology of Socialist Teeth was certainly not supposed to be a positive thing. It was more supposed to be a sort of a tongue. I don't know if it's a tongue in cheek, but it became that way. It's sort of like in the world of the internet, scarlet letter things happen really fast. Like a thing can go from a critical viewpoint of a particular aesthetic to scarlet letters territory very quickly, and that's what happened with the Socialist Teeth hashtag. It became very much a source of pride, very much of people, because guess what? The people who have those icons tend to be very politically pointed. They tend to state They tend to state who they are and what they believe, even if it makes other people uncomfortable really quickly. And so, if someone's like, "Oh, you're gonna call me a socialist? Fine, I'm a socialist." Right? They're not gonna pull punches. They don't care about those labels, and they don't care if those labels cause you discomfort. They're just gonna wear it and they're just gonna go. And some of them do, and there's a percentage of them that do identify as socialists. So they're gonna go, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna wear it and I'm gonna go with it." So that's what ended up happening. A bunch of furries all of a sudden were like, "Hey, I want to get icon. I want to get art with my character baring their teeth like this, in this sort of like snarky, condescending way, or this like or this sort of feral snarl sort of way." And then put the hashtag Socialist Teeth, or they might have found some of the older art that they had of their character that had that. My character obviously doesn't have anything like that, and it's my job to cover this kind of stuff. It's not my job to be an activist. It's my job to talk about activism. It's my job to talk about these kind of things, and I think that that's a great role to have, and that's sort of my way of contributing to a community. It's not my job to go out there and cause issues. It's my job to cover the issues that are important to other people. So that's the role that I sort of take on. So I usually don't get involved in activist hashtags or anything like that. However, I do have my own opinions. I do have my own things, and then there is directions I would like to see my communities go in, and so, but I would commit those activities not using my furry form, but using my human form and doing stuff like that. But that's just rambling aside. The reality is that for many people, this was sort of a fun little thing that they did. Now, the funny thing is that as more and more people used this this hashtag, bots started to pick up on it as it became more and more trending. And obviously, as bots and other people start to pick up those hashtags because they become more and more trending, what ends up happening is that it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and all of a sudden, like, it became the top trending thing. And then people started to notice that the hashtag Socialist Teeth, hashtag that became sort of a popularized thing, all of a sudden was being picked up by conservative bots, or bots that were using it. Now, the most interesting one, I think, was this one. There were several, and that in the article, in the full article in the description below, there's a link to a person who had like a thing with about like 7 or so of these examples. This I think was the best example. There are other examples that sort of have like all the popular hashtags at the bottom, and in that case, sometimes the non sequitur ones. Like there was one example of I'm a New Delhi citizen depressed, and then they just had like hashtag Socialist Teeth, hashtag creepy tramp, hashtag, like they just put every popular hashtag at the bottom of their tweet. I call those non sequitur tweets. Those might not necessarily be bots, but human beings who are playing the algorithm to try to make a statement that has nothing to do with any of the things trending, but they'll use the trending hashtags to popularize their tweets so that people who are going in and searching for the trending tags see them, right? So there are people who are manipulative like that. But in this case, like for this thing right here, this has to be a bot, because this is like it's one of those things where it's like it's uncanny valley. Like it's close. It's so close to being comprehensible, but clearly no one was thinking when they wrote this. It just kind of came together and just kind of went. Hmm. So here's a tweet thing called boycott Chinese vaccine, which I didn't even was aware that there was a vaccine from China for anything currently, but whatever. So Slovenia was once under Socialist Teeth. Results, total failure. Haven't our Democrats, they forgot to capitalize that, by the way, that is supposed to be a proper noun, learned anything from history? Then why is it being imposed on the people? The hashtag enemy of the people call him hashtag crazy Trump. But we the people will not be silenced. So there's a bunch of stuff to unwrap here. Like all those hashtags, by the way, were kind of like sort of trending at the time. But the interesting thing about this tweet in particular is that if you were to remove the word teeth from Socialist Teeth, then obviously the tweet makes a whole lot more sense. It sounds like a standard, right-wing fare, right? It sounds like Slovenia is under socialist or socialism. Result, total failure, right? When you just tweak it just that small little bit, all of a sudden everything is like a fine. Haven't Democrats learned anything in history? The enemy of the people call him creepy Trump, but we will not be silenced. So it's sort of like, playing the whole victim thing. It's like Donald Trump has a platform. He can say to whatever he wants to whoever he wants, right? It's like no one's really silencing him. Some people might block followers of him and things like that. I think people try to impose. They see somebody who has power and they try to impose that power upon themselves. And if someone shuts down their discussions or conversations, all of a sudden, they're attacking the leader, right? And it's like you're not the leader. It's a political thing once again. And it happens with people in the Democrat side too, right? It's like just because somebody doesn't want to listen to you ramble about politics doesn't necessarily mean that you're the one being silenced or that your great leader is being silenced. Some people just want to, do other things. But since we're talking about politics, Here we are. So, Slovenia under this Socialist Teeth. So, the interesting thing here is that we kind of have a situation where if that one word wasn't there, then this bot would have not probably been caught. That makes for somebody who's a computer science graduate, such as myself, this makes for a very interesting talking point. In that we live in a world now where it seems like Turing test has been basically realized, where if this hashtag about Socialist Teeth was just basically about socialism and not just like not a situation that has complexity and cultural things that are specific to a certain subset of people, but used outside of that subset, all of a sudden becomes useless and very non sequitur, right, to the situation of actual politics, right? Socialist Teeth has nothing to do with actual socialism or actual things like that, or actual governance or actual political philosophy. It's just a bunch of furries getting into a fun little brouhaha over an aesthetic, right? Over a visual, artistic aesthetic about muzzles. Muzzle shapes and their presentation in the art form, right? And because that entire context of that situation is unaware to the bot put it forward and blundered, right? Now, the interesting thing is that now that we see that basically artificial intelligence has been able to create, because all the other sentences in this tweet are pretty dang good. Like, I wouldn't have been, like, if you said, well, this is an actual person writing an actual thing who's just very, like, right-wing conservative, I would have been, or right-wing, like, Republican, Trumpist, right? I would have been like, yeah, okay, I can see that. like I wouldn't have questioned it, other than the Socialist Teeth part. But that's only because I'm a furry, and I know what the heck that means. Whereas somebody who's not a furry might not know what the heck that means, you know? Maybe socialist, maybe somebody in the right wing who's coming into this without context might think Socialist Teeth is some sort of, like, dental plan of some description, of, like, trying to, standardize dental insurance or something, right? Maybe that's what they would think it was, without context. And because of this, because some people can be fooled by this, then Turing test is no longer even a thing, right? The concept of Alan Turing's test, which for those of you not familiar, Alan Turing was one of the founding fathers of the modern computer science. He cracked the Enigma code in World War II. One of my personal, like, if I had like a top 10 historical figures that like I really look up to, like, Alan Turing would certainly be in that top 10. Basically, because for one, he's a gay person too, right? So, and unfortunately, he has a very tragic end because of his homosexuality, and like back in the 50s and stuff like that. That kind of stuff wasn't accepted. So there's that social aspect of his life, but there are also the contributions he made to the concepts of computer science, which basically one of the biggest things was artificial intelligence and things like that. And one of the things he was talking about was the Turing test, which is basically how if a algorithm or a computer can trick the human user into believing that it's another human being. Basically, can the AI trick you into thinking that it's somebody else you're talking to, right? And, as we've been automating certain processes, people have seen automation such as, help bots on web pages going, "Can I help you today?" And you're like, "No, you're a bot. Go away," right? And then you're on the phone. It's like, press 1 to that, and that's a bot, right? So those are ones that would not pass the Turing test. Being able to pass the Turing test in text form is not as hard as trying to pass the Turing test in audio form, right? You could tell when a bot is being a bot, right? Because they will talk in very slow and mannerisms, and you may press 1 now, you may press 2 now. Like the way you interact with a bot on the phone is, you can talk to it, but you have to be a little slower when you're talking to it and you're saying the numbers, or you have to be, you basically have to be like, you have to type it in or stuff like that. You interact with them very differently than you would a human on the other end of the line. So, same with computers, is that when you're dealing with these kind of text situations. Twitter lends itself really well to having bots roam the thing, because it's very much, if you choose to use Twitter that way, you can very much have it be a one-way communication gate, where you're saying things to the universe, but you're not going to respond, right, too much to inquiries. Or you can have the bot really be trained as common counter arguments come to be, and then the algorithm can learn about those common counter arguments and just kind of, either say the same thing in a very different way, or try to do those kind of things. Flushing out the bots might get harder and harder as artificial intelligence grows smarter and smarter. And clearly from here, this is pretty. If this is a bot, this is pretty freaking convincing. But the thing that makes me think it's a bot is obviously the Socialist Teeth thing. So that leads us to a new question. I think that Alan Turing probably didn't think about this because it was too far ahead. But now the question is if an artificial intelligence is able to trick most humans into thinking that it is a human or is another fellow human being, can a computer invoke empathy or invoke things in other human beings so that the human beings start emulating the behaviors of the computer? And what I mean by that is, If you can get a bot to write like this and be trained like this, and that bot becomes very popular, will human beings start emulating these bots in order, because they see that that sort of behavior is successful? You know, it's like how human beings emulate other human beings. Will bots start behaving in certain ways, and then human beings start emulating those behaviors that those bots are making, not knowing that it's bots that are making those behaviors? And that could be very dangerous, particularly when it comes to political philosophy and viewpoints, where, you know, you might suffer consequences as an actual human being that a bot might never suffer. Sure, the bot can be blocked from the, you know, from the social media, but a bot doesn't need a job. A bot doesn't need to interact with other people. A bot doesn't need to form social connection. A bot doesn't need any of those things. So if you learn from a bot that might have some biases that might harm you, when you enact on those bot biases in your actual human self and lead you down a path of basically destroying yourself, right, or making decisions that are bad for you, the bot doesn't care, right? The bot, like the bot can promote not wearing masks to protect against COVID-19 all at once. The bot's not going to get hurt by that, right? It's other human beings that will get hurt by following, you know, by not trying to fight the virus, right? Not trying to make sure that we do everything we can to destroy this virus so that we can get back to the way that we were living before its existence. A bot doesn't care about things like that. So we really have to think about the future, and I think that this whole Socialist Teeth brings out a good counter attack for those kind of things. If bots start getting into politics, then maybe the best way you can handle them and snuff them out is to start, you know, creating, like, putting social things that are, you know, quirky, but yet have foundations in those things, like this concept of Socialist Teeth. This concept of Socialist Teeth was close enough to the subject matter that a political bot picked it up and made a blunder because it didn't know what the term meant. So it kind of outed itself. You know, sort of like how, from my understanding of things I've heard in media and in fiction and in social commentary, like, you know how a cop might seem like a narc, right? It's like a person who's running a sort of underground criminal enterprise might be able to sniff out a cop if the cop is not using common lingo within the criminal enterprises. And I'm saying this as the most narkiest person ever. See, if I were to express things like this, there we go. That guy's a cop. That guy's a cop. He's saying lingo. Who says lingo? You know, there's very much an etymology of phrasing and stuff like that within different cultures and different societies and different elements within those societies that it's always fascinating to me, because it's basically like there's these sort of linguistic things within language. And this is one of those cases where this political bot picked up a term, a hashtag, that had politics in it and said, well, I'm going to utilize this because it's a trending hashtag, but it ended up blowing up in its face because Socialist Teeth has nothing to do with actual socialism. It doesn't have anything to actually do with political philosophy. And so it outed itself. And so if you're trying to out political bots, coming up with these sort of quasi-compound words that utilize words that a bot might utilize. Like, so if you're trying to say, is that thing a bot or not? Like, you're watching a particular thing and saying, is this thing a bot or not? Right? And then you can go, okay, here's how we can develop a hashtag that this bot might pick up on, because this bot's targeting towards this particular topic, and sort of tweak some sort of compound word to get it to kind of glitch out on itself. So that might be a good, like, sort of bot psyop, as it were, to kind of catch it off guard. But anyways, so that was Socialist Teeth and the outcome of the bots that had it. So Kind of a weird offhand topic, but as we get into more technological and as we utilize internet more and more for communications, particularly during these times of social isolation, I think it's very important to understand the power that some bots can have in particular social media platforms, to be well aware. But there are actual people who also have particular viewpoints, either because they have them organically, or they pick them up because they follow other people's follow other people's words. No matter what, being patient and trying not to, let's not call everybody a bot on these things. There's ways to find out, and there's here's the thing. If you think somebody's being a political bot, try to talk to them about a topic other than politics. I mean, that's the simplest thing you can do. Because here's the thing about bots is that they might be very well versed in conversations on certain points, but if you take them outside of that wheelhouse, they might end up going, wait a minute, what? And yeah, human beings can be like that too, right? It's like if you start talking about nuclear physicists to like a biologist, they might go, well, this is really not my area of expertise. But at least they would know that, right? They would go, well, that's not my area of expertise, right? They'd be able to admit that. And things like that. So, there's ways to kind of flesh out whether a person you're talking to is legitimate or not. Keeping, track of all that, keeping ahead on that will be very useful as you continue to interact with more and more people on the internet. Waiting for the day where a bot ghosts somebody, though. Like a bot just goes around the internet just ghosting human beings, right? Just like flirting with them and having like nice little cyber situations with them. Woo! Getting spicy up in the DMs. And then they're like, we should go on a date. And the computer's like, yeah, we should. Meet me at this place at 5 o'clock. Okay. And then, never show up. He's like, why didn't you show up? And then he goes, 'cause I'm a bot, sucker. I'm with you everywhere. I know you showed up, though, because I could see it on your location tab. Oh, God. That's like one of those bad cyberpunk fictions. What are we now, man? What have you done, Mr. Turing? What have you done? Anyways. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, kick that subscribe button and kick the bell so that you'll be reminded of new videos. Kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section. Have you ever had an interaction with a bot? I know some of you like breaking bots. I know some of my fans here like breaking bots for fun. I see you, Tom. I see you. You like having a little bot wars and breaking them for fun. But anyways, hopefully we break more bots for you and have more fun. It'll be like battle bots, only it'll be semantic battle bots where we have text battles between battle bots and see if the bots fall apart. It's a fascinating thing. It's what I went to school for, man. I had to bring it back to computer science, even though I haven't really utilized most of the things that I learned in college since I learned them in college back over a decade ago. I'm old.